هدي القرآن ينادينا يغسل أرواحنا يهدينا فنطوف بفلكه نتعلم هدي القرآن.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Today, page number 24, Surah Al-Naml, the Ants, chapter number 27, Surah number 27. Now this surah consists of 93 verses, right? 93 ayah. If we add 27 plus 93, we get 120. Now the surah begins with the letters Ta and Sin. Now the letter Ta appears 27 times in the surah, Surah 27, Surah Al-Naml. The letter Sin appears 93 times in Surah Al-Naml. Now, can that be a coincidence, yes or no? Alright? So, Surah 27, it starts with Ta, Sin. Alright? Now, the letter Ta appears 27 times in Surah 27, and the letter Sin appears 93 times in the Surah 27, Surah Al-Naml. Now, ants are mentioned only in chapter 27. Now, according to the Abjad system, numbering system, the word Naml, Noon means Lam, gives us the Noon equals to 50, Mim 40, and the Lam 30, value number 30. And you add that 50 plus 40 plus 30 also gives you 120. Right at the beginning, 27 plus 93 equals 120. The name Allah is mentioned 27 times in this chapter, chapter number 27. The only verse that starts with Allah is verse number 26, and that verse also consists of 27 letters. Subhanallah. Surah 27, verse number 27, also consists of 27 letters. Now the first verse that does not contain the letter Waw is verse number 27. Waw is the 27th letter of the alphabet. Right? So the first verse that does not contain the letter Waw is verse number 27. The night of Qadr, as we know, or decree, revolves around the number 27. The letter Waw appears in the chapter 333 times, 333. That also gives us 3 times 3 times 3, 27. And the letter Waw, as you know, as you heard, is the 27th letter of the alphabet. Now the letter Waw appears in each verse as follows, or in a group of verses of 15. In 15 verses, in other words, Waw appears 1 time. In another 15, it appears 2 times. In another 15, Waw appears 3 times in each verse. In another 15, Waw appears 4 times, and in another 15, the letter Waw appears 5 times. 15, 15, 15, alright? So all these miracles are there. Page 26. Verse number 15 of Surah Al-Naml consists of 15 words. Now the letter Ta is the 16th letter of the alphabet. And in 16 verses, the letter Ta appears only one time. Right? In 16 verses, the letter Ta appears only one time. And the verses are number 1, 7, 17, etc., up to number 85, those 16 verses. If you add those numbers, you get 640. Alright? And 640 is made up of 16 times 40. And 40 is the longest verse. As you know, 16 is the letter Ta, 16th letter of the alphabet. 16 times 40. 40 is the longest verse. The shortest verse is number 2. So verse number 2. And if you look at the last line there, 40 minus 38, or 40 minus 2 equals to 38. There are 38 words in verse 40. Alright? Ta is letter number 16, as you know, and Sin is letter number 12. 16 plus 12 gives you 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet. Okay? So here we can see these amazing mathematical accuracies that are there in the Quran. Yawma is that day, that is the day of resurrection, is mentioned 70 times in the Quran. And Yawm al-Qiyamah is also mentioned 70 times in the Quran, page 57. Jannah is mentioned 70 times. Now we come to the day, singular, al-Yawm. Is mentioned 365 times. Alright? Month in singular is mentioned 12 times in the Quran. Right? That is, as you know, over a period of 23 years of revelation, and all in all, month has been mentioned 12 times, and there is no way anybody could have kept track of that. And singular day mentioned 365 times. Month in plural appears 9 times. Ashhur, Shuhur, Shahrain is mentioned 9 times. The first revelation was during the month of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the year, over a period of, as we know, 23 years. And 23 is the 9th prime number. Right? And as we know, the day of Wukuf is also on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. And the word Shahrain means 2 months. Right? And this word Shahrain appears 2 times in the Holy Quran. Alright, Surah Al-Kahf, chapter number 18, contains 110 verses. Now verse number 18 describes the condition of the young men and their dog in the cave. Right? The story of these young men who retreated to the cave is narrated in 18 consecutive verses. That is from verse number 9 to verse number 26. Right? If you add that up, you get 18 verses. When we count the words from verse number 9 until we come to the word 300 in verse 25, we get 309 words. وَلَبِثُوا فِي كَهْفِهِمْ ثَلَاثَمِائَةٍ سِنِينَ وَازْدَادُوا تِسْعًا. Meaning, Allah says, and they stayed in their cave 300 years, right? 300. Now up to 300, up to 300, from the beginning of verse 9 to that, the word 300, we add up the number of words and we get 309 words. And as the ayah says, they stayed in their cave 300 years, add 9 more, plus 9 more, 309. The word 300 is word number 309 in the surah. From verse number 9 to verse 26. So we must note that 300 solar years equals to 309 lunar years. Okay? Page 29. The word minhum, from them, refers to the young men in the cave. This is the 240th word from the start of the chapter. From the beginning of the surah, when you get to the word minhum, from them, referring to the young men in the cave, that is word number 240. And 240 is made up of 140, which is a number of chapters in the Quran, plus 7 times 18. Now 7, we know the 7 sleepers in the cave, the 7 young men in the cave, and 18 refers to the surah number 18. Right? Surah number 18. Al-Kahf, the word Al-Kahf, Alif, Lam, Kaf, Ha, Fa, the word comprises 5 letters, the cave. Have a look there. 5 letters, the cave, and is mentioned in 4 verses in the Quran. Right? It is mentioned in 4 verses in that surah. In Surah 18, verse 9, 10, 11, and 16 mentions the word Al-Kahf. Page 29. Now in verses 9, 10, and 11, those consecutive numbers, 9, 10, 11, Al-Kahf appears as the 5th word, right, of that each ayah. In verse number 9, 5 words appear after Al-Kahf. In verse number 10, 11 words appear after Al-Kahf. And in verse number 11, 2 words appear after Al-Kahf. Right? In those ayahs or verses 9, 10, 11. Now if you add 5 plus 11 plus 2, you add up, it gives you 18. 5 words, 11 and 2, you have 18, and as we know, Surah Kahf is Surah number 18, chapter number 18. If you take those same numbers, the 5, 11 and 2, and you multiply 5 times 11 times 2, you get 110, and the total number of verses in the surah is 110. Alright? And also the 110th word in the surah is Al-Kahf. Alright? Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha consists of, as we know, 7 verses, 7 ayah, and 29 words. 7 verses and 29 words. And the surah consists of 143 letters. 21 letters of the alphabet are used in the surah. So here we have now 4 numbers that we must try to remember. 7 verses, 29 words, makes up Surah Fatiha. It consists of 143 letters, and 21 letters of the alphabet are used in the surah. We recite this surah 17 times in the 4th salah every day. Right? And 17 is the 7th prime number. Prime numbers, as you can see there, number 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17. Alright? Etc. etc. About Surah Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمِ. Meaning, that is Surah 15, verse 87. And we have bestowed upon you the 7 oft-repeated verses and the Grand Quran. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ 7 oft-repeated verses, and the Quran. The 7 verses that we say so many times a day is Surah Al-Fatiha. Now this ayah, Surah 15, verse 87, this verse consists also of 7 words. So we are told here about the 7 oft-repeated verses, and this ayah consists of 7 words. Alright? Amazing. Magic. The first verse of the Holy Quran consists of 19 letters, as we heard last week. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim consists of 19 letters. The shortest verse in the surah has only 2 words. That is ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right? That is Surah 1, verse 3. Verse number 4 consists of 3 words, Maliki Yawmiddin. So that is your middle verse. In other words, Maliki Yawmiddin, you've got 3 verses before and 3 after it. Now if we add the letters of the first word of each ayah, right, of Bismillah, you add the first word, the letters, second, third, fourth, up to the 7th. You add the number of letters of each first word of each ayah. You get 31 letters. You go to the second word of each ayah and you get also 31 letters. And you go to the third word of each verse and you add it up, it also consists of 31 letters. Alright? Even though the third verse does not have a third word. Right? Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Only 2 words. So even then you take the third word, you add up all the letters of the third word in each ayah, you also get 31. Right? And in those 31 letters, or in all those words, group of words, the number of dots in the above 3 groups also equal 31. The dot below the ba or ta or shin or whatever it is, you add up even the dots in that also add up to 31. In the names of Allah in this surah, there are 31 letters, like Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Malik, etc. In all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the number of letters are also 31. Now we go to the 31st verse in the Quran, that is Surah 2, verse 24. It contains even 31 letter dots. The dots on there also equals to 31. Okay? The idea of this is, as I said, it's impossible just to remember all these wonders. So normally in my talks, I would just mention one page, for example, and then people will try to remember that. So you just give them 3 or 4 miracles at a time, 1 page, half a page, and then they will appreciate it much more. But don't ever, if you try to explain to somebody else, don't explain a whole 2 pages or whatever. Just gradually 3 or 4 miracles at a time. 31, page 31 at the bottom there. Each verse ends either in a noon or a meme. Right? So the Fatiha, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So it either ends in a meme or a noon, each of the ayah or verses. Right? Page 32. Now meme is the letter number 24 and noon is letter number 25 of the alphabet. And 24 plus 25 equals to 49. As we know, 7 times 7 equals to 49. 7 verses of Surah Fatiha, 7 of repeated verses. Now the letter Mim appears 7 times in Surah Al-Fatiha, in the whole Surah Al-Fatiha. Mim appears 7 times and the Noon appears 7 times in the Surah Al-Fatiha. Now if we compare that with وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمِ, that is where Allah says, we have bestowed upon you the 7 oft repeated verses. That is Surah 15, verse 87. Alright? In that ayah, now remember now we're comparing now Surah number 1 with what is mentioned in Surah number 15. And in that ayah, Surah 15, verse 87, the middle word of the verse is min, right? وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي مِنَ الْمَثَانِي. Now, that is also mim and nun, and the mim appears 3 times in that ayah. 3 times in that ayah, and in Surah Fatiha it also appears 3 times. Or sorry, the verse that ends in a mim also 3 times. Right? So 3 times in Surah 15, verse 87, the letter mim appears 3 times. Right? And in Surah Fatiha, the ayah that ends in letter mim are also 3. Right? The nun appears 4 times in that ayah, 15, verse 87. In Surah Fatiha, the verses that end in a nun are also 4. So look at the agreement or the comparison between 2 surahs that were revealed, or 2 ayahs that were revealed years and years apart. Right? A miracle indeed. So Surah 15, verse 85 has 21 letter dots also.
97.
وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمَ. Page 33. As we heard, there are 21 letters of the alphabet makes up Surah Fatiha. Sab'an min al-mathani, the oft repeated verses, the 7 oft repeated verses, the total number of each letter appears in Surah Al-Fatiha 179 times. Right? If you take the word Sab'a min al-mathani, and you take each letter, Sin, Ba, Ain, Al-Mathani, you take all those letters, you add up the number of times each letter appears in Surah Fatiha, you add it up and you get 179. You all follow? Right? You get 179. And the number 179, as you can see, is made up of 7 plus 21 plus 29 plus 143. Now the 7 refers to the 7 verses of Surah Fatiha. The number of words in Surah Fatiha is 29, and the number of letters in Surah Fatiha is 143. Right? You all follow that? Right? 7 plus 29 plus 143 equals 179. Al-Mathani is a 7-letter word. And if you take those letters, these letters appear 114 times in Surah Al-Fatiha. And as we know, there are 114 chapters in the Holy Quran. Al-Mathani, Alif, Lam, Mim, Tha, etc. is a 7-letter word. If you take the alphabetical letter number of each word, you add it, you get 114. And as you know, 114 is the number of chapters in the Quran, and so that is the link between the number 114 al-Mathani in the Surah Al-Fatiha. Chapter 1 starts with the letter Ba, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ba. The total number of verses in the Quran that starts with the letter Ba equals to 63. And as we know, the Holy Prophet ﷺ's age was 63. All okay? Right. Page 34. Now we go to chapter number 7. Right? We're still dealing with the number 7. Chapter 7 is Surah Al-A'raf. The word Al-Araf consists of 7 letters. Alright? Al-Fatiha also consists of 7 letters. Now the letters that make up the word Al-Araf appears in Surah Fatiha also 114 times. Now we go to Surah 14. 7 times 2 is 14, that is Surah Ibrahim. Surah Ibrahim is also a 7-letter word. The letters of the word Ibrahim appears in Surah Fatiha 98 times. If you take all the letters making up the word Ibrahim, it appears and you add it up, you get to the number 98. 7 times 14 equals to 98. Surah 14, 7 letters in the name of Ibrahim. Alright? So Surah Ibrahim is Surah number 14. Surah 17, Al-Isra, Surah Al-Isra is also a 7-letter word. The letters that make up the word Al-Isra appears in Surah Fatiha 111 times. 111 is the number of verses of Surah 17 Al-Isra. Right? The letters that make up the word Al-Isra appears in Surah Fatiha 100 times, and 111 is the number of verses of Surah 17. 17 is the 7th prime number, page 35. Let us go to chapter number 16, Surah Al-Nahl, the bees. Al-Nahl is a 5-letter word. Alif, Lam, Nun, Ha, Lam. Al-Nahl, 5-letter word. But 4 letters of the alphabet are in there because the Lam is repeated. Okay? In Surah Fatiha, the 4 letters are repeated as follows. There's Alif, Lam, Nun, Ha. Alif appears in Surah Fatiha 26 times, Lam 22 times, Nun 11 times, and Ha 5 times. Al-Nahl. We add that 26 plus 22 plus 11 plus 5 gives you 64. 64 is made up of 16 times 4. As you know, Surah Al-Nahl, 4 letters of the alphabet in that name, and 16 is the surah number. 4 times 16. 4 is the number of letters in the name Al-Nahl. Now the word Nabi or Prophet, Nun, Ba, Ya, the letters are repeated in Surah Al-Fatiha. 11 plus 4 plus 14 equals to 29 times. Nun, Ba, Ya. In Surah Fatiha, the Nun appears 4 times. 11 times, Ba, 11 times, and Ya 14 times. Nabi, Nun, Ba, Ya, letters are repeated in Surah Fatiha 11 plus 4 plus 14 times. Gives you 29. 29 is the number of words in Surah Al-Fatiha. The code of the letter Sad. In chapter number 1, Surah Al-Fatiha, the letter Sad appears for the first time as letter number 88. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Sad is, the first Sad is letter number 88. The chapter Surah Sad, that is Surah 38, consists of 88 verses. Right? 88 ayah. The letter Sad appears most in the title of the chapter, that is Surah Al-Qasas, Surah 28. This surah also has 88 verses. The first verse to contain the letter Sad 8 times. Right? The first ayah to contain the letter Sad 8 times is the only verse in the Quran to contain 88 words. Quite a long ayah. That is Surah Surah 4, verse 12, that is in Surah An-Nisa. The number of verses in this surah is 176, which is 88 plus 88 gives you 176. Now we go to Surah number 88. Al-Ataka Hadithul Ghashiyah, as you know it. It starts with the letter Ha. And Ha is the 26th letter of the alphabet. Right? Now, chapter number 88 comprises or consists of 26 ayat or 26 verses. Alright, you follow that? We go to Surah 88. It starts with Ha al-Ataka Hadithul Ghashiyah. The number of verses in this surah is 26 verses. It starts with letter number 26 and the total number of verses equal to 26. Also, 88 plus 26 gives you 114, the number of surahs in the Quran. There are 7 chapters where a double surah appears, like in Surah Qasas, two surahs appear there. Now there are 7 chapters where this double surah appears, and these are chapters number 3, 4, 7, 12, 16, 18, and 28. And if you add those numbers, you get 88. Alright? Letter Ta. Ta is one of the Quran's unique chapter opening letters, also called separated letters or huruf muqatta'a. The letter Ta appears in the Quran 1,273 times. Only one chapter in the Quran starts with the letter Ta. That is chapter number 20, Taha. Taha ma anzalna, etc. Now the 7 chapters contain the letter Ta in their titles. 4 chapters in the Quran whose first verse begins with the letter Ta, that is chapters 20, 26, 27, and 28. 7 times 4 is 28. The total number of times the letter Ta appears in Surah Taha equals to 28 times. The total number of times the letter Ta appears in the Surah Taha is 28 times. The letter Ta in Surah Taha is located in the middle of the 1,273 appearances of the letter Ta throughout the entire Quran. Right? In the whole Quran you have 1,273 times where the letter Ta appears in the Quran. And right in the middle is also a letter Ta. So in other words, you have the letter Ta and 636 stars onto the beginning and 636 stars to the end of the Quran. Before and after this letter of Taha, 636, both sides, that is called the golden Ta. 636 of Ta appears in the first 19 chapters of the Quran. The maximum number of Ta in a verse is 4 times. And there are 4 chapters in the Quran whose first verse begins with a Ta. 4 verses in the Quran that begins with the letter Ta. 4 times 4, as you know, 16, and Ta is the 16th letter of the alphabet. Now the 4 verses in which the letter Ta appears 4 times are in chapters 5 and 24 in Surah Al-Ma'idah and Surah An-Nur. 4 verses in which the letter Ta appears 4 times are in those chapters 5 and 24. Now verse number 26 that is Surah 24, verse 6 to 26, contains 16 words. The fourth verse in the group of 4 verses where the letter Ta appears 4 times in each verse. Verse number 26, that is Surah 24, Surah An-Nur, verse 26, contains 16 words. This is the fourth verse in the group of 4 verses where the letter Ta appears 4 times. Okay? If we take 16 times 4 equals to 64. 64 is the total number of verses of Surah An-Nur, which is Surah number 24. Now 4 letters appear 4 times in verse 26. That is Surah 24, verse 26. The Ra, Ha, Ta, and Ta, corresponding with letter numbers 10, 7, 4, and 3. And if you add that up, you get 24. And that is Surah 24. The 4 letters that appear 4 times in each verse. Page 39, Surah An-Nur is Surah number 24. Ta appears 24 times in this Surah. Surah 24, verse 26. The 4 words which contain the letter Ta appears as word number 5, 6, 7, and 8. First 6, 7, and 8 words. Yeah, again, we add 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is equal to 26. 26 is the verse number. Surah 24, verse 26. The letters from the word Allah, Alif, Lam, Ha. These letters appear in this verse as follows. The Alif appears 10 times, the Lam 15 times, and Ha 1 time. Right? And that is, if you add that 10 plus 15 plus 1 equals to 26. And that is, as you know, verse number 26. This Surah 24, verse number 26, comprises of 99 letters. The letter Ta, the greatest number the letter Ta appears in the Quran is in Surah number 2. Ta appears in chapter number 2, also 99 times. Right? 99 times. Now look at the comparison there, Surah 24 and Surah number 2. Surah 24, verse 26 consists of 99 letters. Right? The letter Ta appears mostly in Surah number 2, Surah Al-Baqarah. And it appears in Surah number 2, 99 times. Okay? It's a lot to digest, but as I said, every day if you read 3 lines, 4 lines, you will see the beauty in all this. So, chapter number 2, the first appearance of the letter Ta is in verse number 14. That's in the beginning of the Quran, chapter number 2, Surah Al-Baqarah. The first appearance of the letter Ta is in verse number 14. So Surah 2, verse number 14, the number of words in this verse is 16. As you know, the letter Ta, Ta is letter number 16. And Surah 24, verse 26 contains 16 words, as you know, in the chapter An-Nur, that is Surah 24. Alright, like I said, this lesson is a bit more intense and a bit more things and miracles to remember. Alright, now page 40. What's the time now?
42.
Page number 40. Surah 2, verse 14, as we heard, consists of 16 words. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قالوا إنا معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون. Right? So this Surah 2, verse 14, that consists of 16 words. From the start of the verse to the letter Ta, there are 42 letters. Right? وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم. There's a Ta there. Right? So up to that letter Ta, there are 42 letters. And from the letter Ta to the end of the verse, there are 32 letters. Right? So imagine now the letter Ta, from the beginning of the ayah, there's 42 letters, and to the end of the verse ayah, there are 32 letters. 16 plus 16 is 32, as you know, and 16 plus 26 equals to 42. Letter Ta, as you know, is letter number 16 of the alphabet, and Surah 2 verse 14 has 16 words. In Surah 24 verse 26 again, from the beginning of the verse, the Ta appears as the letter number 37, 44, 52 and 59. Right? From the beginning of the ayah, the Ta appears as the 37th letter, 44th one, 52nd and 59th letter. We add them and we get 192. Right? Remember now, from the beginning of the verse, the Ta is letter number 37 and another one 44, 52, 59. We add it, we get 192. Now we count from the end of the verse. We count now backwards. From the end of the verse, the Ta appears as letter number 41, 48, 56 and 63. And we add that and we get 208. Remember now, 192 if you add from the beginning, and 208 if you add the position from the end of the verse. 208 minus 192 equals to 16. 16 is the number of words in that verse. Surah 24, verse 26. Thus we can see that each letter is perfectly positioned or located, which is a mathematical perfection, a divine revelation indeed. So here we can see that is why the person reciting the Quran and the Hafiz of Quran must be very careful how they pronounce words, and not pronounce a word too long than it should be, or too short, because then you alter the mathematical, numerical, or system totally, because you are either adding a letter to the alphabet or you're taking away a letter of the alphabet. And that is why some ulama say that some Quran, that because they focus on the tune, then they lose out on the accuracy of the Qira'ah, of the reading of the Quran. And you cannot say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What have you added now? You've added letters now in between. So in other words now, that Bismillah doesn't contain of 90 letters anymore. It is now 25 or whatever you have added. So you must know, the Qaris must be very careful that they don't focus on the tune, but focus on the Qira'ah, the proper pronunciation of the words of the Quran. Right? So there we can see that if they say a word, drag it too long, then you are adding words which is not in the Quran, or letters are added. Right? So therefore, I thought I'd just mention that, something to think about. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Any questions?
هدي القرآن ينادينا يغسل أرواحنا يهدينا فنطوف بفلكه نتعلم هدي القرآن. هدي القرآن ينادينا يغسل أرواحنا يهدينا فنطوف بفلكه نتعلم هدي القرآن. آيات القرآن تنادي بحروف أبلغها الهادي خير البشرية علمها هدي القرآن. قرآني يا سر حياتي صدق في الماضي وفي الآتي منهجنا وشريعة حق هدي القرآن. هدي القرآن ينادينا يغسل أرواحنا يهدينا فنطوف بفلكه نتعلم هدي القرآن. أمسكت المصحف أتعلم فوجدت الإعجاز تكلم فبكيت بدمعي أنهارا هدي القرآن. فأنا المشتاق لجماله لبلاغة حرفه وكماله أتلوه وكلي إيمان أتمنى بحفظ إكماله. مكتوب 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 في لوح محفوظ. مكتوب